Another week
Ay,
of
ay,
ay
ay,
ay
ay,
ay ay.
hey.
All right.
And the reason we named it ay 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 is because you got to go through so many emotions to talk about hardware stack, data stack, the software stack. I say I am a hardware obsessed guy, stuck on software and lost in data, right? Because data is just too wide, software is just something you cannot escape, and then the hardware is like, oh my goodness, do I even want to get started with hardware, right? But I love hardware, right? Because that's what you can actually drop in your feet and say, ouch, right? That's real. It's nothing like vaporware that we call software, right? It disappears under the sunlight. Um, it's been such a long time since I've spoken with you, Robert. I got a lot of things that I want to catch up with you on, but I've been waiting for this moment to kind of just say, at one point, I'm going to get to speaking about hardware, and it's going to be Robert all over again, right? Because we've had multiple semiconductor chips guy that came in and talked to us about hardware, the semiconductor chips level. But I said we need a perfect combination of you and Leonard because, you know, Leonard earlier was talking about Vietnam era hardwares. We're like, all right, we're gonna have
I'm a
multiple levels of
relic.
hardware.
I am a relic.
We
It's
gotta
changed a
have
little bit.
hardware. I
I can
mean,
take it from the Stone Age to the Space Age. How about that?
yeah, and this hardware conversation is really something that I look forward to because more I expose people to how AI works, how the infrastructure works. One of the biggest gap, I think, the single biggest gap is hardware. Right?
Yeah.
Is data next one? Yes, absolutely. Because everybody knows something about software from some aspect, but they cannot fathom how big the data world is. But one of the things that they really go missing on is hardware because they haven't really seen hardware and they don't really know what hardware means outside of just being called device, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to lose them even further. You talk about fabs, semiconductor chips. You talk about the world of supply chain that is million miles long, right? Really, really gets the conversation going. But I think we're shifting a little bit. At least since last 3 years, we're seeing a lot of this conversation about, hey, cloud native, we're about to go hybrid. We've been cloud native. We're going straight to back to the way it was 25 years ago. We own the full hardware stack. No more cloud. And if we do cloud, it's a private cloud, right? Just lots of amazing, amazing things are happening. The shift is just, I don't mind this tsunami. Like,
Mhm.
this is why we call the AI is because at the end of the conversation, you either feel more excited or you are just, my shoulder hurts from carrying all these, things that we have to talk about, right? Kind of like, ay, 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 ay. Any language you look at, there's a version of ay, ay, ay somewhere. So we
Yeah.
just said ay, 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 ay. Either you're excited or you're just, not enjoying the moment
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they just feel
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
tsunami, one after another, one after another. I'm not going to talk about something today, which is the software and data part of it, because that's what we're going to do next episode. We're going to talk about AI agents. We're going to talk about Cloudbot,
Oh,
these
cool.
cybersecurity nightmares that are just popping up everywhere. So call it a tsunami, but a bloody tsunami, in my opinion. So we're going to specifically focus on hardware because we literally have the subject matter expert in the room, right?
Hmm.
So we're going to stick to the hardware because if we can convey one message about hardware to anybody, is that if you want to talk about data ownership, if you want to talk about data security, you want to talk about everything you do in the stack that makes you billion more than your competitors, is because of your hardware stack.
Hmm.
Show me your hardware stack. I'll show you where the money is because you definitely don't have the data. I can tell you that much right now. And I'm a data guy. You don't have the data. You just don't. Show me the hardware stack. I'll tell you where the billions are sitting at. Right.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
it's crazy to scale that. You know how we've gone from in 74 years we followed Moore's law and we've scaled it down so far. And yeah, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. If you really want to get in some of the numbers game, Let's watch this if you guys don't mind. Tell me if the audio is good to go.
100 million?
Okay.
Is the audio coming through?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Sure good.
Well, 100 million calculations a second is what's required to run Mario 64 from 1996. We need more power. Maybe 100 billion calculations a second? Well, then you would have a computer that could run Minecraft back in 2011. In order to run the most realistic video games such as Cyberpunk 2077, you need a graphics card that can perform around 36 trillion calculations a second. This is an unimaginably large number. So let's take a second to try to conceptualize it.
This is good.
Imagine doing a long multiplication problem once every second. Now let's say everyone on the planet does a similar type of calculation, but with different numbers. To reach the equivalent computational power of this graphics card and its 36 trillion calculations a second, we would need about 4,400 Earths filled with people, all working together and completing one calculation each every second. It's rather mind-boggling to think that a device can manage all these calculations. So in this video, we'll see how graphics cards work in two parts.
So
31,000 years. It'll take you 31,000 years to count to 1 trillion. That's how big that number is.
Yeah.
if you know why I'm excited, this is why I'm so excited.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is
But,
an amazing number.
So is Nvidia the only game in town when it comes to that, or as far as
No.
no?
AMD is competing. Intel's actually coming in with different, obviously NVIDIA is leading the pack, right, by a far margin. And but it's not the bleeding edge that we don't need the bleeding edge for everything. So AMD's got an incredible market share, and Intel's coming in with new technology as well that they're going to have a market share as well. Obviously at the lower end of that. But AMD or NVIDIA is absolutely just the bleeding edge of the technology right now. So
Okay.
H100, they're going to go for B100, B200. And for those, like I said, you need a specific type of concrete slab in order to hold the server racks. Like that's how insane weight those things are, because the air cooling doesn't cut it. It's the water cooling, and you have to get to the GPUs, the transistor level of cooling it, not necessarily cooling it just a box, right?
yeah. And I also like to talk about like how to understand that we're now building transistors at 3 nanometers, which is a scale like we followed Moore's law for 74 years. It's a trajectory that's gone like this for 74 years. We've gone from a single transistor to a chip with 2.6 trillion transistors on it. Now we change architectures. We start doing 2D stacking, 3D stacking. Now it's about computational power, right? How much computational power with the least amount of energy density that I can put into this, into this chip? What is the amount of computational power that I can get out of this chip now? And so the standards have changed, right? Because Moore's law is more or less dead. And so now we're doing different technologies with architecture and computational and 2D stacking and 3D stacking and all these different systems that we're trying to innovate now to be able to make these chips faster and better. And
Well, we don't have the alternative, because the demand from the industry is that you cannot sell me the same chip that you sell to Merck, and I'm Toyota. I don't want the same chip. Merck has his Merck business. Toyota has a Toyota business, right? Or what's other companies that we can think of? Just any manufacturer that's thinking about it right now is like, I'm just going to build a bunch of these wafers and just sell them all like to everybody. It's not going to work anymore. You really have to start manufacturing these chips. And I think we talked about Elon Musk earlier before the recording started, because Elon Musk said, if I want to build a fab, I want to build a fab where I can eat a cheeseburger right next to the fab system that's manufacturing it.
Yeah.
Wild conversation to have, but that's literally what the signal is for the fabs right now. The demand signal is you have to manufacture that fast, right? We talked about just in time earlier. On demand means if I want it, I need to have it by next 3 months, not 3 years from now. because my life cycle cannot be 3 years long for me to go from R&D to have something in consumers' hands.
To power that village where they didn't have power before to run their computers and things. And what's amazing about all of this is that because of satellite type technology and things, it has really sped things up, because before it used to be there were places in Africa where people were stealing the copper lines and all that, and it would take forever to get communicating. Now you can just do it, because of the where the technology is, and that's going to speed things up going forward, I believe. As far as the innovation, there's innovation in Nairobi, Kenya, for example. There are data centers there and call centers in Nairobi
Right.
that people are doing things, testing things for companies here in the States.
Right.
Now, I mean, that's happening right now. So, I think as far as everybody getting on the same page worldwide, I think it's going to happen. I really do. And the things that we're doing right now, even the translation is no longer a barrier, language
That's
and
right.
things, because I mean, you could talk in real time. They just come out on the iPhone, and you can speak English, and somebody hears it in Mandarin. So that kind of. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And I completely agree. We got so much to do. And I think in spirit, we're all educator. And that's what we're
Mhm.
going to do is we're going to educate people on topics that they might think is uncomfortable, but that's how change happens. You get uncomfortable
Right.
and change comes to you, right? So if it's time to change, it's time to change because you're uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, that means you're changing automatically.
That's right.
So I push the envelope in these sort of conversations because we really have to push people's imagination. So when you expand and you come to shrinking again, come back to the original state, you are better off because you've been through that uncomfortable expansion. Now you have come to that form where you're going to start doing things because you've learned a lot, right? Because
Yes.
knowing, doing, and being is the state that we have to be in. And uncomfortableness comes from knowing, but when you start doing, you already know why you've been so uncomfortable and how that's paying off, right?
That's right.
So I push the decision makers all the way to the future, and I say, it's not just about you. It's about people that you're employing. It's about the human in the loop. It's about that workforce development. It's about having that workforce, a future that everybody is moving along just fine, right?
Right.
The problem sets that we're thinking of today, as long as that's not a problem 10 years from now, that's the type of problems we want. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you
Okay, I
guys so
see.
much for this
Yes.
amazing conversation. So we'll go off camera, but we'll be online. Just hang on tight.
Okay.
Is out.
All right.
Cheers.